You're like, I can't go because I'm doing this, that, and the other. And a lot of the time, you're talking about connection here. The disconnection is because you're actually doing it by yourself. Yeah. You're doing those drugs at night at home by yourself, or you're bringing out the bottles of wine by yourself. You're hiding it from people.
By yourself.
By yourself. So that connection is lost again. How did you get the money and stuff for heroin?
Wow. I seem to keep mentioning Gabor Mate, but he actually said to me, he read me book actually, which was mind blowing for me before we met. And he said to me, he says, I'll have to get the words of exactly what he said. It was recorded. It's a TV documentary I'm doing. And
when's
says,
that out?
It's out in May 2025.
And you've got Gabor Mate in your TV document.
Holy
shit, guys. Yeah. What a manifestation.
Pinch myself moment.
Like, Brian, can I have Gabor's number? I want him on the podcast.
On the podcast.
Oh, my God. How epic is that? Like, he's...
to meet him, I met him in 2024 to ask him, and just meeting him was a goosebump moment. But, like, I was like a kid at Christmas. We were over in London, and it was amazing. We brought the TV crew over there, and it was absolutely incredible.
He said one thing, I don't know on whose podcast it was, but he said one thing that really gave me an aha moment. Someone had said to him something like, yeah, but, you know, my brother or my sister is this or that, and we grew up in the same family. Like, and just like, you know, any family, and maybe you might have a sibling or somebody that's an addict or a brother or sister or whatever, and you're like, but we grew up in the same family. What the hell is going on? I'm not an addict. He said, but you didn't. You have the same parents, but wherever you are on the line in your family, you could actually be treated differently. And I have 4 kids, a 6-year-old, 3-year-old, and twins. And I know in some ways, even though I don't mean it, they are treated a bit differently.
Yeah. I think it's nearly impossible to treat them the same, though, isn't it?
Yeah, they're different beings. But when you think about it, like, we always pass these comments, but we're in the same family. Yeah. How are they so sarcastic or, you know, an asshole or this or that and the other? Like, we're in the same family, and but you're not treated the same by your parents.
And then that has a compounding effect as well. So if you're treated a little bit differently, you might act a little bit differently, and that will interact with how your parents treat you going forward. And then that can just compound over time, and you have the little scamp who is funny and gets away with murder, but you have the one that's a little bit bolder and gets away with nothing, like, you know, and that just drives into itself, like, you know. So it's
So you were saying you were kind of 16, then 20, kind of regularly using, like, with the money. Where did it come from?
Sorry, yeah. So that's what Gabor said to me. He says, like, can I say it to you, Brian? It says, from reading your book, he says, what you call it? You're a brilliant addict. And he meant that in the nicest possible way, because I was a functional addict. Like, I was addicted to heroin, daily heroin use, on a methadone program for 12 years. So that was like
no. And heroin, how did you take it? There's multiple ways, right?
There's multiple ways.
So smoking there's injection is the most, or smoking.
Yeah, you can snort it in America. In Ireland, it's either smoking or injecting it. I had a phobic fear of needles based on my heartbeat and pulse thing from the trauma, so terrified of needles. But it got to the stage where I smoked it so much that I had to inject to get the bang for the buck, but I just couldn't. Oh, wow. I just couldn't put a needle in a vein. It was like, I was taking heroin to remove anxiety, but that would make me, like, I'd be having a panic attack, the thoughts of that. So at near the end of my addiction, like, I got a friend of mine to actually inject me, but it was like, it's called, God, I forget the name of it now. It's just a skin pop, just putting it into a muscle and injecting it into a muscle. But there's dangers of that as well. But the thoughts, like, funnily enough, I'm okay with getting blood tests now, but the thoughts of anything going into me vein or coming out of me vein used to freak me out. And it's from that operation, like, of a scar in my belly that still freaks me out. So if that bodily sensation still live with me, so that saved me to an extent. But the fact of the matter was, at one stage I had like €150 a day heroin habit.
What?
And I sold drugs to fund the habit, like, but I was a functional addict. I held down a job for 15 years. I worked in the graphics industry, in the pharma industry, ironically designing methadone and anti-anxiety medication. So I'd be sitting there on a computer designing these labels for Pinewood Healthcare. I'd be going into the toilets, doing a few lines of heroin. I'd have taken 100 mils of methadone that morning. I'd be taking a benzodiazepine, a Xanax, just to take the edge off, get me through the day. Crazy stuff, but functional. Not very functional, functional enough to hold down a job, have a car. For many people, I looked like someone that had a drink problem and probably went a bit too rough on the gargle and the coke maybe. Lots of people didn't know I was a heroin addict. Now, more knew than I thought. Only when I got clean I realised me lie wasn't as good as I thought it was. But a lot of people perceived it as me as being a dipso rather than a heroin addict.
And when did your family find out? Like,
my mum, God, I was in my early 20s. My mum found out a horrible way because she knew we were smoking hash. We knew we dabbled in smaller drugs. The area I grew up was full of drugs, and we were big drinkers as well. But she was changing me curtains in my bedroom one day. I was in my early 20s, and the curtain rail sort of slipped, and a lot of little pieces fell down the back of my bed. And when she pulled up the mattress to get the little pieces, there was like about 50 empty methadone bottles with my names on them all under the bloody bed. So that's how she found out. So that would have been a bit traumatic for my mum, you know. So so then I was just there. I was just someone that was addicted to heroin. But I was always telling people, oh, I'm getting off my methadone, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But I was lying to myself. Like, one thing that makes people in addiction brilliant liars is that they believe their own lies. And once you believe your own lies, you're locked into that lie yourself, and you are very, very believable. And then you're seen as more sleeving and sly when you don't know what's going on yourself. So you're living in these two different worlds. It's a really challenging place.
What made you want to change? What was like? Did you try to change a few times?
No. So in 2007, I know it's that that was the year. So I remember I was just not getting anything off heroin anymore. Like, I could smoke 60 quid, 3 bags of heroin, and I would get barely anything out of it. Like, I was nearly looking into going to Afghanistan. I was looking to move to places where they'd have really strong heroin. Like, that was where my mind was at. But I wasn't getting that off the quality of heroin that was in Ireland, and I was combining benzos and heroin and methadone and vodka, just combining drugs to get a hit and numb that pain. It's like chasing the dragon. You're chasing something that's make-believe that doesn't actually exist. And so I remember in 2007, I says, right, I'm going to try to get clean. And I weaned myself off methadone, and I didn't do heroin, and I believed I was clean. But I was drinking like raging amount of alcohol, like bottles of vodka, and I was taking Zopiclone, sleeping tablets, and benzodiazepine. I was probably taking 10, 15 of them a day.
Where are you getting these sleeping tablets, Xanax, all that stuff?
People in the estate, online, stuff like that. Half of them I don't think were even real, to be quite honest. Like, but you'd get them off. Other addicts and dealers sell these tablets. You get them. Yeah, you will get them.
Sorry, obviously people here, like, I've never had an addiction, never been in the space. I've actually never even been offered drugs.
Wow.
But by anybody. Oh, actually, we were walking in Dublin City Centre there recently, and my husband was walking towards me, and some guy was like, Coke. And I was like, I think that's the first time I've ever heard. I was like, what? Oh my God. So now I'm totally, I'm actually, do you know what? It's a different world for me in a way.
Yeah.
But you tried in 2007, but you were drinking to no end.
Drinking to no end and taking a crazy amount. And we went on holidays. We actually went over to France. Me, my brother, and my sister, and her boyfriend. I'm a big skier, and I went on skiing holidays while I was in the midst of addiction. I used to have my methadone back in my bag, like crazy stuff. But we went to a glacier in France, summer skiing, and I remember being over there, and I went mental over there on the tablets and stuff like that. And it was probably the craziest week of my life. Like, I was on my own skiing around France and all, sort of lost them. It was crazy time. And I remember coming back, and I was off methadone and heroin for about a month or about 6 weeks. And I remember when I got home, there was like no decision, no nothing. I just went to the dealer and I got 3 bags of heroin, and I was doing the heroin, no emotions, no thought process. And I remember thinking, maybe I'll get a really good kick off it now. And I was saying to myself, I think retrospectively, did I just do that so I could like get rid of the tolerance, so heroin would be valuable for me again? And it didn't turn out that way. Like, it's a great saying in addiction circles, like, if you give up and you go back, you don't get back on at the start of the roller coaster, you get on in the loop, in the middle of the loop. That's what happens. You're straight back in there. The brain remembers. You don't get the same kick off the drugs that you got at the very start. And I was just back in the midst of addiction. So that was the only time I ever tried. And it wasn't until 2013 that I lost my job. I lost everything.
Did you lose your job because of the drugs?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
They were
yeah.
like, you're out.
Yeah, I was highly enabled in my job. They were a great group of people. I was there 17 years and we are great friends, still great friends, but they tried to protect me. But by protecting me, they enabled my addiction. Like we used to have auditors coming in, pharmaceutical auditors coming in, and they'd hide me so the auditors wouldn't see me. Now that was them protecting me, because if the auditors see me, they'd say, what the hell is wrong with him? But it was only when we merged with another company in an open plan office that the other people came in and says, what the hell is up with that guy? How was he allowed work here? Like I used to just fall asleep at the desk. And I got to the stage where I went to a meeting to save me job with the upper management and the union. And I came out, I'm laughing about it now, but I came out of the meeting and said to Wayne, he was the shop steward, the union guy at the time, he's a really great friend. And I said, I think that went all right, Wayne, did it? And he says, all right. Brian, you fell asleep. We were all looking at you in the meeting. And you fell asleep on the desk. I just goofed off and fell asleep.
This is not funny,
No,
obviously,
it's
guys.
not,
but
you
like,
know. When it is,
but
it's
like,
dark humour, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh my God! Like you were like that, but that doesn't that just go to show that you were on a fucking different planet? Excuse
planet.
my language.
A
Like you're
different
on
planet.
a different planet. If you think a meeting has gone well and you didn't even realize you fell asleep during it.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Mental. And that was